Good morning, everybody.
What's going on, y'all?
Hey, what's up, Connor?
Hey, Connor, how we doing?
Adam, what's up?
Blessed. We're just going to start in Integrity Connect. All right. Is this showing for you guys? Perfect. Okay. So this is going to be Integrity Connect. So again, this is the website, integrity.com leads. I can put that in the chat for you guys. So this is going to be, I would say, the main vendor that people use because they run a lot of incentives for the agents. So Integrity Connect, their CRM, for every application you submit, the first 10 applications, they'll give you a bonus of $1,000. They'll also allow you to quote through this. And then once you've quoted, go directly to the carrier application site, and it will transpose some of that initial information for the client as well. So a lot of people really like Integrity. Typically Go is actually more user-friendly, but right here, you'd go to Marketplace, right? So this is where you would select your products, life. So there's going to be different leads available depending on the category. Direct mail is going to be more of your mortgage protection leads. You're really not going to be running these. Probably mailers are kind of outdated. But if you're a little bit more old fashioned, we do have mailers where people are physically filling out a form, mailing it back in if that's the style that you like. So lead type, they're going to be categorized. There's a heat map. So it's showing you where you're getting the majority of the requests filled out. So you can select it by the heat map or you can select it by the state. Available leads. Now, again, we're doing the country. So fresh mortgage protection, a lead, there are 6 available in the country, right? Internet and social media is going to be where the majority of the leads you're buying come from. So the internet, as you can see, significantly larger heat map, larger imprint here. The premium leads, these are all going to be light, right? So final expense. A very popular type of lead new agents will start with is going to be the Ethos abandoned cart leads. This is very popular, especially with the agency that you guys are starting with. Ethos is a carrier that we contract with. Some of you guys may have already requested them. They are a tech company, so they don't actually sell the insurance. Meritas is their IUL carrier, and TrueStage is their final expense and term carrier. They also have John Hancock as a term provider as well. But basically, Ethos will provide a link for clients, right? So it's actually a neat feature. As an agent, they'll send you a unique customer and agent link that you can put in your profiles, your socials, where clients can click on that and sign themselves up for the policy. So that is really cool. And that's what these leads are, is these are leads where people started an application and for whatever reason did not finish it. So that's a very high intent, very fresh, I guess, lead to start with. And they have aged ones as well. So we encourage new agents to start with these because it gives a reference point. Obviously, I mean, I'm sure you guys have cold called at some point in your guys' careers. It's a lot harder to talk to someone with no context or reference point, right? So with the Ethos abandoned cart, we know the company that they were trying to apply for. It gives us kind of an in automatically.
You've gone through the motions.
Yeah. And Jennifer, you're correct. So I'm not going to say I'm a fan of Ethos, but it's that tool you don't want to use, but you kind of need. So Ethos, you don't own the book of business with, okay? That's important to remember because that will count towards renewals. That counts differently towards bonuses. And here's my thing with Ethos. Because they own the policy, guys, they have an in-house agency where they'll call your clients and try to upsell them or switch them to a different policy if they think it's a better idea. And that does result in a chargeback for you. So I got into being a broker space to own my business, right? You guys are all business owners. That's the whole point. Otherwise, like, we should go get employed by somebody and have benefits and pay
Connor,
time
could you
off,
explain
right?
that? Explain how it is or why it is that they own the book. Is it more of an LOA kind of scenario with them, apparently, where they control the, explain how that works mechanically.
I'm not the smartest person. I'll try to regurgitate. Yeah, they're a tech company. They basically, you're 1099 contracted with every carrier. Somewhere in their individual contract with agents or with IMOs, they have it that they retain ownership of the policy. You can sell it, you get an advance, but it's their policy. So it's like a captive IMO. It's a captive company. So at American Income or Globe Life, it's you sell the policies there, but you don't own that. Like, I couldn't turn and sell my book of business back to Globe Life. You're essentially an employee. So you're employed more so by Ethos instead of 1099.
That's what LOA is. It's license only agent. So you're licensed to
Got
get paid for them, but they control it. Got it.
But
Is Ethos the only one that does that?
correct.
Okay.
Yep. But to my knowledge, Ethos is the only carrier. However, that said, their IUL product is actually a very good product. Emeritus is a great company. For the first 15 to 20 years, it actually stays incredibly competitive with a majority of our very high performing IULs like F&G, Fidelity and Guaranteed, which is probably the best. And they do approve pretty much. It's very hard to get declined. So that's why I'm saying it's that tool you don't want to use, but it's nice to have. If you have someone who's having a hard time getting approved, Ethos is probably going to approve them. And the interface is very user friendly.
Hey, Connor,
Just
quick
go-
tangent, Connor, if I may. So did you mention that American Income Life is one of those that you cannot sell the book to? Because we're looking to recruit from that. They have a pretty big presence in where I am. So they
Down
don't know their
Florida?
business. Yeah.
So you're going to be dealing with Spencer Koze down there. That's the guy who runs AIL down in Florida.
Okay.
So yeah, you can find him and you can start poaching his people. But yeah, he
Gotcha.
operates down in Florida. Yep,
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
absolutely. So the reason most of the time that they don't finish with Ethos is it is expensive,
Got it.
right? So usually the higher the approval rating or odds, the
Right.
higher the premium is going to be.
Right.
So ideally,
I'm just thinking from that perspective, those would be great leads for you to sell all the. So even though they're Ethos abandoned cart leads, we want to point them into any other direction. So there is it's potentially a good lead to buy, even though it's
Yeah.
Ethos, because we're going to put them into a different book. Potentially.
I would say most new agents probably should start with an Ethos abandoned. A lot of managers will drive their agents to this because of that ability to reference Ethos and kind of create a commonality. Like, I'm calling you for a reason. This isn't just a cold call. You filled out a random form. And obviously, guys, none of this is cold calling. They request it. Now, the longer age they are, they forget. It might feel like a cold call, but at one point, every single lead that we get filled out a form to request this stuff. Okay. But yeah, so for new agents, Ethos abandoned cart leads are fantastic to start with, and they're at a decent price point for a newer agent. Yeah, Elite Ethos abandoned $5. That's not bad at all for a relatively, it's pretty high intent lead. So
It says elite, and then it says 91 to 150 days.
Age lead.
Right.
yeah, so it's 91 to 150 days old. That's how long it's been in the system without being sold.
So is the elite value of that still good?
Yeah, for $5. Yeah.
Meaning they've filled out so many that it's still considered elite, even though it's aged.
It's just the intent of the lead.
Right. That's what I meant.
Oh, yeah,
They've filled out 15 pieces of information, even though it was 3 months ago.
Yeah. A question I get asked a lot, guys, is it better to have fresh leads, buy fresh leads, right? Or is it better to get aged leads, right? Even past your initial entry point. So I want to look at something. If we're looking at a fresh lead, right? So we're talking on average, at least $20. Most of you guys probably aren't going to stay in the final expense space long. You guys are probably getting into IULs, you're getting into mortgage protection, annuities. My thing with the fresh leads is the fresh is just the time we've received them. The average sale size industry-wide doesn't change whether it's aged or fresh, right? It's around $85 a month. That's like the very, very average. So if you multiply that by 12, that's 1,000 AP annual premium, right? That's essentially what we measure and how we get paid. So if you've got to spend $1,200 for 25 leads, right? But the average sale size is the same. And I can go buy aged leads for $5 and I can get 200 of them for the same price. You're going to get more answers with the fresh leads. It's a newer intent, but your ROI, that profit margin, is a little bit harder to beat because you had to spend significantly more and you have less leads to do it with. So I think fresh leads make sense. You should do them. But if you're running fresh leads, ideally you're going to self-gen them and ideally not even have to use a vendor. So a vendor, there's going to be a retainer fee, right? To have them run the ads for you, right? And then ad spend. So that can be a little expensive up front, right? Whereas if you self-gen your own, whether you teach, I mean, most of you guys, I'm sure, know how to market, create ads, right? Now all you're doing is paying for ad spend and you're getting exclusive leads to you. So you can use your name, your picture, your team name, if you guys already want to start your branding, right? And you're getting that lead cost down to $12, $13 instead of an average of probably closer to 30 through the vendor sites. So I think from a profitability margin standpoint, for most people, it doesn't make as much sense to run a lot of fresh leads because you could spend the same price, get 10 times the amount of aged leads. You're going to have to work them harder, but throw them in a dialer, right? The average leads sale size is the same. So I'm going to have a way higher margin of profitability running aged leads a lot easier and faster than with fresh leads. I do believe in fresh leads. I think you should self-gen them. I think spending $30 or $40 for a lead is silly. Unless, of course, you have the finances to do that and you can do 100 of them a week, then that absolutely makes sense and you should only run those. I prefer aged leads, definitely. But so moving forward again, so we've got more of these. Now these leads, these buy level leads, this is probably going to be the meat and potato of a lot of your new agents, right? I recommend Ethos Abandoned Cart. I think it's an easier start, but you're still talking like a $5 entry point. Whereas you can get these aged final expense for $1 to $2, right? So you can just get massive volume. And for new agents, volume is a little bit more important. Quantity is a little bit more important than the quality of the lead when you're starting in this because you need repetition. That's the number one way to learn it, right? And then social media is where you're going to find more your veteran and your IUL leads and some mortgage protection. It looks like we don't have any veteran leads available through Integrity right now. So more mortgage protection leads, final expense, a little aged final expense, and then you're going to have your fresh to aged IUL leads. And then you do have your IUL premium on the phone leads. So these are live leads, right? So that's about as high as intent IUL you can get from Integrity. This is something kind of ideal. You guys should all pay attention is the referral, the $50 referral. So for all you guys bringing all these freaking people in, like this little link, I'm not sure how you do it. I would put that in their onboarding or their welcome email from once you register, and I'd send it to all your masses of people, right? Basically, that's like your lead spend could be free, guys. Like I'm just thinking of the amount of people you guys are probably bringing in. You got $50 for every single person who registers their Integrity account through your link. And that's money you could use to help them with their first lead pack, right? So you don't even have to spend money on leads for new agents. And you can give them higher intent leads as opposed to super beat up age leads because that's what you had.
So that's really a good point. We need to make sure we're training and teaching that on.
Yeah, like that's free money that's just on the table. Like,
Yeah. So we need to add that to whatever list we've got there for Stacy. Yeah.
okay, cool. So that's the rundown for Integrity. You can do campaigns through Integrity as well. So this is just an example. I had done like a Kixie campaign back in the day. So you click on campaign, you name it, the data type. So like campaign type, I want birthday, beneficiary name. So like when you click the campaign type, that's what you're looking for. I can start a new one. So let's call it practice. All right. So you always want to do the data one because that's going to have like the beneficiary information, more of like the intent, what they're looking for, how much coverage. The call is just going to be name, birthday, phone number. It's going to be very, very, very basic. Okay. So you want the data. Product type, life health. So you can select what kind of lead you want to run, whether that's final expense, mortgage protection, or IULs. All right. So let's just say IULs. Organization, Family First Life, assigned Connor White. Next. This is where you can select your states. So whatever states you want to run your campaigns in, you can run campaigns in multiple states. So let's do California, and I want to have a spread because I want to use the time zones to my advantage. So all my calling is done in optimal hours of the day. So let's get a West Coast. Let's go grab an East Coast. And let's just leave. And then this is where you can request the amount of leads that you want to be receiving each week. So what'll happen is you attach or you fund the account and it'll just keep going automatically and renew each week. If you don't fund the account, it'll just automatically stop and cut you off. So let's just say 100 leads a week is what I want. Right? I'm looking at $25 lead. Obviously, it'll run while there's money in there. So if you don't, that's something I will say. You do have to manually watch this thing because if you forget about it, it'll just keep running and taking the money. So you do have to keep a bit of an eye on this if you don't want it to just keep going forever. All right. and then you would just launch a campaign. No, so the campaigns, guys, they take a little longer to get going. So if you're going to run a campaign style, right, or any kind of campaign, a vendor, you start self-genning, you do this through here, make sure you're still purchasing leads to fill in the gaps of your day, because these aren't going to just pop into your CRMs, right? They're going to trickle in over time. So in order for you to not just be sitting and waiting for stuff to come in to call, you make sure you still want to be purchasing like live packs, right? Otherwise you're going to have a lot of spare time on your hands.
So you would probably just, so get leads first and then move to campaign somewhat quickly once you get familiar with the conversation.
Yeah, campaign is just nice because it's just automated. But you can go in and just manually purchase leads every week too, and you'd have a little bit more of a finger on your pulse. You know, you could switch up the lead type if you wanted, you know, because that's just going to keep renewing the same lead.
So creating a campaign is essentially like automating purchasing a specific type of lead for a specific time period.
That's assigned to.
Well, it'll go indefinitely as long as you keep jumping money into the pot. Or it'll run up until the money is out. So what some people will do is they know that they want to get 50 leads that week, but they want fresh campaign leads. So if it's $25 a lead and there's 50 of them, let's just say it's $2,000. They would just put $2,000 in there, and it'll debit out all the way down. And then when it's out of money, the campaign will stop. That way they don't have it going.
And Connor, these will come to your app on your phone as well, right? The Integrity app.
Yep.
So if you're out doing something as a mom and you get that lead, want to hit it, I'm assuming right away.
Absolutely. So the only times I wouldn't call a fresh lead that just came in is really on a Sunday past 7:00.
Perfect.
I call them. Sometimes I'll get them in at like 11:00, and it'll be, you know, Alaska, you know, so it's really only 9:00 there, but I'll call them and you'd be surprised. They just filled it out. So they're awake. And if anything, you can just call and introduce yourself, guys. What's a good time next week we can meet?
Connor, I'm interested, analytics wise, that you have the data for, what are the best days or times to be calling in each time zone? Like not each time zone, but obviously that analytics is probably good in every time zone, but what is that day, time? Do we have that?
Absolutely. Sure do. So let's talk about schedule, right? Let's just hop on that really quick and then we can bounce back to goat leads. Maybe it'll be done misbehaving. So, and then obviously guys, Integrity is a CRM. All right. Now, before I go over it, I want to know, I don't know what CRM you guys may be using. There's a lot of different ones and everyone kind of uses a different one. So have you guys decided what you guys are going to be using, or is that still kind of up in discussion or are you going to use one? Because you don't need one to start with.
Integrity right now.
Yeah, it's still up in the air. We're going to start with Integrity. We've got a call we've got to do with one of the third-party providers that you guys have through Grady coming up here maybe next week.
Okay. So we'll wait on the CRM stuff until we kind of know what you guys are going to be using. Integrity is it's a great CRM. It's a great client relationship manager. But as far as schedule, so in the beginning, I don't need to tell you guys we're 100% commission. I think 6 days a week is a must, especially when you're new and you're trying to figure it out, right? So Saturdays are a huge day. Weekends, 30% of your week. During the week, I would not identify a certain day as being any better because it's just another day. I would say Sundays is the one day I'd identify as probably being cautious or aware of the calling. So for Sundays, if you're going to rock it, which for the first 4 months of insurance, I was 7 days a week and I sold on Sundays, but I had to keep it between 1 and 5. So 1 to 5 on Sundays. And they're hard. That's a hard line. It's like their whole attitude just shifts past 5 o'clock. They're gremlins.
Especially Bible Belt.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. No. And it's like, it's a joke, but it's real. They take it real serious. So as far as ideal calling times, mornings, optimal, evenings, optimal. During the day, you're going to talk to more people, but they're not really going to have time to sit with you for whatever reason. And I don't know how your guys' industries, your experiences have been with appointments, but in this industry, appointments are disappointments is what we say. So scheduling appointments feels good, but the show ratio here, for whatever reason, on average is pretty low. You want to take them bird in hand, right? So lunchtime hours, I think it's a little bit more, you could optimize it more by either maybe script training, right? Or product knowledge or EAP training, right? Getting on and watching the recorded training videos in the group me as you're new. There's a lot of other things you could do in that time outside of just calling people that I think is going to be more beneficial. Practice Zoom presentations. And I'm going to explain that in a second. This is something I had all my new agents doing when I was building teams. So I like to use the time zone. I like to chase the sun. So especially for you guys, are most of you guys East Coast? Most of you? You guys got the best schedule in my. So ideally you guys start at 8 o'clock, right? So from 8 to 10, whatever, right? You rock your in-home state, right? East Coast, 8 to 10. And I like to break my days up because I think you can be a little bit more intense and intentional in shorter periods of time rather than just dialing all. So 8 to 10, East Coast, right? And then you're going to bounce over to the West Coast, right? Because it's 8 o'clock again. And you go from 8 to 10 on the West Coast, right? So now it's what, 12 o'clock East Coast? That's 4 hours. Super locked in, super intentional dialing, all in the best hours of the morning. So it's 12 o'clock your time now. Now this is where you get to kind of get your time back if you want it. So maybe that's the gym, maybe that's product, maybe that's still, progressive training, scripts, leads. But from 12 to, I don't say, without sounding excessive, 3, 4, really, right? 3 or 4. That's a 3-4 hour break. Again, you can still be productive with that time, or you can take that time, but you start dialing evening hours, right? People are starting to get home off work. It's not too late yet. So about 3:30, 4, you start dialing East Coast again, right? And you rock that till, say, 7, 8 o'clock. Okay. You can legally dial till 9 in most states. So 8 or 9 o'clock or 7, 8 o'clock, your time. And then you're going to bounce right back over to your West Coast state where it's 5, 6 o'clock again. And then I would push the needle all the way to 9 on the West Coast. So this allows you to get a full day of dialing in, but instead of, I don't want to say wasting, but putting dials in a time where you're not going to get the best odds of sitting or selling someone, it's all occurring in the prime morning hours and in the prime evening hours. And then something like mental break that I kind of tell agents is give yourself a 5 or 10 minute reset every hour. So 8 o'clock rolls around, 8:50, 8:55, get up, stretch, go to the bathroom, eat a snack, sit back down. And I believe that allows you to stay a lot more. There's a difference between just dialing and intentional dialing, right? I mean, you guys know this, right? So I feel like it allows you to stay a little bit more locked in and it breaks up your day. But as far as the schedule goes, that's Monday through Friday. That's what I'd be running. And if you guys don't let my standard be your ceiling, if you guys want to rock the whole day, rock it. But this just allows you to have some of that time back.
Connor, this is great. I have a couple questions. This could be something early on, maybe when you're getting started, but have accountability partners, especially if you're working virtually, if you're not in an office setting, like, all right, we're on a Zoom together. You call one, I call one, you call one, I call one, and we're on together, and we're going to do maybe Monday you're with one accountability partner, Tuesday you have a different one, and you're kind of going back and forth the calls, keeping each other engaged and having somebody that, especially if you're working from home, right? All right, I'm here, you're here, instead of, well, my favorite show's on right now. I'm going to, you know what I mean? Like something like that.
Yeah. So guys, most of you guys are going to be virtual. Accountability buddies, it's everything. So you guys should never be dialing alone. I'm sure that Nick or some of you guys are going to have a Discord, a Zoom, some type of a group conference type of thing set up for you guys. And you guys should dial just like this. So we use Discord. We like that because you can pull them up on video and it's got separate tabs and channels. So Discord allows us to stay really organized. I can show you guys here kind of what we do so you guys can look at how you might want to set yours up. And again, don't have to use Discord, but so this is just an example. Okay. So Discord, right? So this is just your general, when people join in, it pops them up in here. Lead orders. So this agency, this team has a vendor that they use, and for accountability purposes, they post their invoices of lead purchase in here. So we're leading and showing by example. Also, all the vendor links are in this. So when agents get onboarded or come in, hey, where do I get my leads? Go into that channel, right? And then like they post it. So there's good culture, encouraging, investing back into your business. As a new agent, that's the scariest part. So seeing everybody doing it and getting the results, they're getting, that peer review, that peer proof, I guess. So they have a lead order channel. These guys haven't put anything in here, but they've got an ad channel as well. So they record their own ads for the recruiting. And the idea is that they were going to post them in this channel, but they just, again, for accountability, hey, here's my ad. What do you guys think? Go reshare it, go post it, go spread it and tag it. Supports. And then usually like there's a call channel too. So welcome resources. So there's a resource channel, right? So you can keep your cheat sheets here. You can keep your handbooks, your agent resources, underwriting right here. This is good for you guys. We talked about the producer bonus, right? How you can climb up into the business. So this is just, I think this is actually an older one. Oh, this is back in February. So, obviously I don't know what you guys are starting with your comp, and that's all between you guys, but this is just an example of, hey, as a new agent, how do I increase my comp level? Adam, great question. Here's how you do it. And you can have all of these resources right in these tabs.
One other thing too, I was thinking strategy wise, you were talking about the mornings and the evenings, idea calls, especially for the kind of people we have here during that midday. Maybe that's when we want to recruit people more. Maybe that's when we switch gears from calling.
Absolutely.
And then the midday, now we're recruiting people in the midday. So we're using those times to kind of sandwich the.
So yeah, make a channel in here and have an outreach section in your day. So when I was in the gym world, we had outreach hours. So 2-3 hours a day, we went out and we met people and we tried to get them to come back in and take a free tour of the gym. Absolutely. So you could have a channel in here, outreach channel, and people send proof of their DMs. People send proof of the people they've talked to. It's all about just keeping people accountable to doing those consistent daily actions that are going to lead to the results that they want. But the voice channels, the meeting room. So this is where you can hop in and you can dial with people. You can unmute, mute, talk to them on text. It's like it's as close to being there on their shoulder as possible. So you should absolutely create some kind of a team call room or something, and you guys should always dial together. Definitely should not be dialing alone. That's for sure. So Rich was saying if they're fresh, they likely already getting calls from other agents. That's my other thing with fresh leads, guys. Fresh is just the time length that we've received them. There's no way of knowing if they've filled out other forms. So they absolutely could have already been called. And that's why when it comes to fresh leads, I'm a big pusher on self-generate your own, because it's custom and personalized as can possibly. It's going to get you in at the best price point. And as long as you guys are a little bit patient while that algorithm figure out where it's, best optimized and it's getting the best return and it's performing the best, it usually takes about a month, maybe 3 at most that I've seen. That's the route for fresh leads, guys. It makes the most sense. Great. So let's talk about lead flow. So on Saturdays, really quick too, guys, just kind of coming back to the schedule there. Like I was saying, get a Discord, have a group accountability, call together. I always say cameras on, because if your camera's off, I'm assuming you're not here. So we're a big camera on culture, but Saturdays, early mornings. And so I mean like 7, your local time. Like people are up in there early, especially if you're dying 5 minutes spent, guys, they're awake. Exactly. Right. So Saturday, early mornings, 7:30 is when I'd start. And I think the optimal day or time on Saturdays is going to be till about 1 o'clock. Now, in the beginning, I would encourage your new agents to work full Saturdays. It's worth it. They need the repetition. They need the time. But once they've started to acclimate, once their skill set has started to adjust and they're more efficient, that should be a half day if they want it. Because after 1 o'clock, now the day started. People are out, they're doing things, they're doing errands, they're with their friends, and then we all know what Saturday nights are like. So that's my Saturday schedule. Usually morning time is prime. So if you're starting at 9 o'clock or something on a Saturday, you've missed 2 of the best hours, hands down. Right. So Saturdays and then Sundays, like I said, 1 to 5. That's your window. Frank asked a great question. So when it comes to like lead purchase and like best way to work the leads, are you guys all going to be using a dialer, like an auto dialer where it dials multiple lines at once, or you guys are hand dialing? We don't know yet.
We don't know.
Tell us what to do.
No.
What works
Yeah.
best?
What would you do?
Cool. Okay. So I just recently, in the first time in my career, started using a dialer about 2 months ago. Big game changer in its own way. However, there's pros and cons. There's some caveats. So purchasing, let's start there. Mondays and Thursdays would be, if you're not running a campaign or have an ad running, your hard purchase days, Mondays, Thursdays. And the science behind it, I guess. So if you guys are going to pay for a dialer, I think you should use them. They're great. It does allow you to get through the leads. But if you're only, as again, this is more talking to your newer agents getting started, they don't necessarily have the capital to have a massive influx of leads right away. You don't need a dialer to dial 100 or 200. You're going to be done in 30 minutes, and then you're going to be like, what do I do with the rest? I think the amount of times you get through your pack is it's a better measurement than just the amount of dials that you make, right? So I think you should get through your pack, your lead pack each time, 2 to 3 times a day. So with your newest lead pack, right? Because you're going to be buying it in packs of 20 or 50 or 200 or whatever, right? Your goal should be to get through that freshest pack you are currently working 2 to 3 times a day. And when I say that, I do mean double or triple calling. That is 1. So if I'm calling Adam and I'm calling him, ring, 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 no answer, ring, ring, no answer. All right. And then I move on. And your goal should be 2 to 3 times a day. And the reason I do that is it breaks it up. So you've got Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 2 to 3 times a day. At a minimum, you have squeezed that sucker 6 times. And each of those 6 times, it's double to triple tap, right? So at that point, timing becomes the measurement, right? So at that point, essentially, you've probably squeezed that for what it's worth in this time period, because they may not be in a place, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't call them back in a month or 2, because now the timing is different. Maybe they're working again. Maybe they're in a position, they have extra funds, they just got married, they just had a baby. So at that point, timing is now the constraint. In those 3 days, if you're getting it through it 6 to 9 times, varying the order, so you're hitting them at different times in the day. So then boom, Thursday, fresh new leads. Mentally, this stimulates you because it's fresh, it's new to me. Thursday, Friday, Saturday, 6 to 9 times. Sunday, God's day, or whatever, watch your boat, you rest. Monday, we're rocking it. That's when I would use the dialer. That's when I would use the dialer to just rip stuff. In the evenings is when I would start to vary my contact form, because right now, especially if we're going to be working final expense, which most of you are going to start there, these are people in their 60s and up. I don't know what happens, but when you turn 60, you get signed up to get like phone assassinated. I don't know what it is, but they get so many calls all the time. I never really believed how much they got until I was on a call with a lady. I'm on her house phone, and we were consolidating like 6 this lady had 6 different policies with 6 different carriers, all within the span of 3 years. She had no idea what she had. It was a mess. I spent 4 hours on the phone with her, consolidating everything, saved her like $200 a month. She's super happy. But during that 3.5, 4 hour call, her cell phone, she got 50 calls at least. And she's like, oh no, this is every day. Every day. So they're already getting blown up. So the only thing separating your attempts right now is your frequency, your back to back, right? Telemarketers aren't going to do that. Your dialer is probably not going to let you double dial. That's the one thing about dialers I don't love. You can't double dial because it's just mowing through it, right? Now, because it's mowing through it 3, 4, 5 lines at a time, you can just go through it 2 or 3 times in the morning, right? And that could be a double dial. I save this stuff, I hand dialing for the evening block because I know they're home. They're more likely to be home. And that's where I'm going to switch it up. So the saying is, you want to be memorable, the purple cow. So if you're driving past a field of cows and they're all black and white and spotted, you're like, oh, cool, cows. You drive past and you see a purple one. You see that. And you're going to talk about that purple cow for the next month, right? You want to be the purple cow. You want to stand out. So text messages are okay, but I get automated text messages. I don't really think that makes you stand out. FaceTimes. My favorite. FaceTimes. Quick poll. You guys get a call from a number that you don't know. Gut instinct reaction. What is it? Guarded. Scam. What do they want? Okay. You get a FaceTime from a number you don't know. Gut reaction, instinct. What is it?
Someone I know that I don't have the number or something.
Maybe.
So we went from guarded to curious. That's a good zone. So FaceTimes are great because they're going to think it's family or friends. Otherwise, who else would be freaking FaceTiming them? The other benefit is you got them on camera. So I'm a little old school with this. I'm a big pusher on getting them on Zoom, getting them on camera, Google Meet, Crank Wheel, something, but FaceTime, it's immediate. You don't have to, people get weird about links, about downloading stuff. So FaceTime, boom, I'm up. And if they blocked your phone number, FaceTime, you can usually actually kind of get around that. And then the new iPhones, the updates, or FaceTime audio will get around it. They blocked you. But I love FaceTime. Instant rapport. They can see me. You guys are all in sales. Your physical presence is half of it a lot of the time.
You guys do actually, you can request Zooms, get on Zoom to pitch.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
I don't know if there was
prefer
an
it.
issue with that or not. So,
No, if anything, like probably kind of should. Like realistically, like I don't think there's not a legal barrier there, but like for transparency and clarity, I feel like that makes it easier.
It makes it
And
more
trust.
more personal. I'm assuming when they can see you, it feels better. The client. Quick question though. I know sometimes the at 60 and over, like my mom, she does not know how to even hardly email, much less use Zoom. So I would think once you pass a certain age, because we see that data, you would want to do FaceTime because they know FaceTime.
So yeah. So at my other company, all of our clients were 60s and up for the most part. And I'm just saying this to make you guys feel better. If that's the way, they will figure it out, right? Like I did over $1 million of personal product, which isn't a lot, I know, but it was all final expense, guys. That's not bad. With seniors, getting them on Zoom. So it's totally doable. But FaceTime, they're familiar. The grandkids all FaceTime them, right? So yeah, I would say if that's your route, probably going to have more success with that for sure. Video text messages. And this is why I save all this stuff for the end because they've seen your number, right? Just 30, 40 seconds. Hey, Joe, this is Connor. I'm the IUL specialist. I work with clients and requests with the state of California. Listen, I got your request in, man. I've tried reaching out. I know you thought I was probably a telemarketer, so I wanted to send you this just so you know I'm a good old boy. If this is still important to you, man, shoot me a text. I'd love to get this information over to you. If it's not, you can just reply, stop. I'll go ahead and delete your request from here. And guys, the amount of response back I get from that, thank you so much. Oh, I thought you were a telemarketer. I thought you were a scammer. I thought you were my ex, like it makes them feel good when they see you're a real person, right? Voice memos are really good, right? Just a quick voice memo. I guess something a telemarketer will never do. So those are varying contact methods you guys can use that are going to increase your pickups without having to do anything special. And I save those for the evening because then I can double, triple tap them using that. So I'll hit them with a dialer in the morning and then evening rolls around. And then maybe it's a call for my personal, call, FaceTime, video text, or call, voice memo, call. And so, yeah, it's a little slower, but you're definitely increasing your odds of getting someone to answer the phone. And they're home, so they're a lot more likely to watch the video, to listen to the recording than at work. But that would be how I would probably go about calling the leads throughout the day. That's what I typically recommend for people. It's a good strategy that you guys can use. Let me see here. But as far as schedule and calling, I mean, you guys have any questions on that? I feel like that's pretty.
Now, this was
Guys are
great,
quiet.
great strategy and helping us really start to put that together. And when we actually start doing it, we'll use each other to create the data.
Well, no, I hope this information is helpful, guys. All you guys are very high performing salespeople, and I'm not teaching you sales, which is what I know. So I'm going over basic stuff, and so I appreciate you guys giving me some grace.
Connor, can I
But
on the not the leads portion, but when you bring somebody onto a Zoom, is it really more for face to face, or are you taking them through? Is there a benefit to taking them through visually with, going through the actual tech platform and system to get them priced and show them what you're inputting up to then the options that get quoted?
I wouldn't say that there's a face-to-face, right? I use that for familiarity. Sharing the screen is great, but there's the acronym KISS we've all familiar with. Keep it simple. Sometimes the more information you give the client gives them more things to think about. So for an IUL though, that is something depending on the client, and they're very interested in the cash value. They want specific amounts. There's a lot of intentional here. I'm going to pull up an illustration and show them so they can see it. And the cool thing with the illustrations is they're always based off of a low average. So they're not usually current projections. They're usually based off the lower average over the last decade. So it's like, hey, client, if you like this, it's performing better. We can't show you the best performance, right? Because we can't, we don't really know it's going to do that.
Regulatory.
But we can show you yes. Yep. That's the language. But on the lower average, we can show and illustrate that, right? So I'll show them that. Sometimes socials and bank, they want to know, I'll flip the screen, show them the application. Here's why I'm asking for this information. Here's where it's going. I can't see it after this. I show them it getting asterisked out. And that's really the only time I'll share screen is if I'm showing an illustration or are uncomfortable with something about bank or social. So I'll show them where that information's going.
The IUL
Yeah.
products, understanding it better, understanding the strategy in which to recruit, pitch that, right? Go to people about it and way to do it. Would everyone like that, like a training on that moving forward? I know Brian does. I know I do too, Brian.
Cool. Yeah, I will say really quick before I do that, voicemails, I just want to touch on, don't leave voicemails. They'll block you. The only time I'd leave a voicemail is if I'm calling about a child's policy. Parents will do things for their children. So it's the only time I'm ever going to leave a voicemail is if it has to do with a children or a child's policy. And we don't really have leads for that. So I guess I answered my own question. Don't leave voicemails. Okay.
You said something about voice notes earlier, Connor, did you not?
Voice memos.
Got it. Like a voice drop. Gotcha.
Yeah, because a voice memo is more like live time. A
Agreed.
voice call is kind of like after the fact. I don't know. Psychologically, it is the same thing, but they treat them different.
And Connor, you're doing that from your personal iPhone, right? You're just like sending a voice note. And are you dialing from your personal phone number as well?
So people think I'm nuts for that. Maybe you guys want to, I have a business line. I used to have 2 phones. I don't like all the clutter, but a lot of people will get a separate phone for the business so that the clients, they don't get them mixed up with texts and stuff like that. So they'll have a separate line for this, and then they'll have a personal line.
In the boot camp, Connor, the one thing that they reference, and I tend to agree with you, even though, yes, you're right, it can get a little overwhelming probably, but one of the things they brought up that I thought was pretty unique is as far as the CRM, and I'm forgetting which platform they were referring to, that if anybody gets back with you, it already pulls up all their information. That's pretty advantageous. So I guess that's the pro and the con, right?
Yeah, that would be integrity. So if you're dialing through integrity, it'll pop them back up. Same with Go High Level. Go High Level is a great one.
Yeah, it is.
Use that. Cool. Let's talk about IULs. Do you guys have an IUL script yet?
I do not.
You guys want me to send you one that I use?
Yes, please.
Super, super easy. What's going to be the best way to send this to all of you guys at once? Can I attach it as like a link or something in here?
Remember, this is the first training besides logging to some of your stuff that anyone has had. So I would assume y'all are going to open the floodgates and give us access to everything. We're just kind of waiting. I'm pushing into y'all's area, into your guys' schedule, to your calendar, but we've got 30 people on here that have been through boot camp, a dozen that have been onboarded. No one's had a lead consultation. No one's had so we're ready. We're ready. It's like, give us the stuff.
Cool. All right. Okay. Say no more. All right. I'm going to add in one other thing into the chat before we start hopping on IULs though. So this is for a different agency, but it's an agency guide, but it's got a bunch of really great information. It's got a list of all of your carriers that you can contract with. It's got a list of all your compensation plans. It's got a list of all your producer plans, management growth plans. It's got a list of everything. Okay. So I'm just going to send this to you guys to review in your own time. I'm sure the boot camp with Nina and Hayden covers most of it. I haven't seen theirs, but the agency I'm with directly, it's very in depth and they just revamped it. It's really good. So I'm just going to put this in here for you guys and then we'll jump into IULs. Okay. So I sent that over to you guys. Again, don't have to look at it now, but bunch of great information in there. And then all you guys are getting into the F90 group meet, right? You guys should all be getting added into that.
Yeah.
Another resource in there, if you haven't checked out the pinned tabs yet, there's 2 Google Drive links in there, one for referrals, one for all of my other calls that I do. Please, the one I'm going to stress, as your carriers get in there, watch the carrier training video for the carrier you just got. It's going to shortcut your learning curve. 2, and you guys, I probably don't need to emphasize this, master those referrals. Get on the referral training calls, watch the referral training videos. The only caveat, the negative of this business is you got to pay to play. So if we can eliminate the pay and all we have to do is play, life is sick. And referrals are going to be how you do that. You guys know this. But
Prove me it's amazing.
so talking about IULs, guys, really, so I have an understanding of where to start. General consensus, scale 1 to 10. What do y'all know?
1.
We're probably about a collective 3. We got a half a dozen insurance people on here that are probably the 8, 9s, and 10s. The rest of us are the 1s, 2s, and 3s.
So can I, just so I know to maybe lean on in case I need to explain something differently, who are our IUL people in here? Rich, awesome. And Adriana, awesome. Okay, awesome. Cool. So guys, please feel free.
I have a general understanding of it from YouTube. So there you go.
Okay. Hey, YouTube University.
That's right.
YouTube University, man.
We're at a
so-
0.5. We want to be at a 10.
Let's go. So guys, please, Rich, Adriana, please, Matt, please, if you guys want to pull open that script really quick though, I want to run through that real fast. Super simple. The reason people have a problem or a hard time selling IULs, especially to our type of clientele. Rich, I'm looking at you specifically, Adriana. You guys, I don't know why I'm thinking this. It seems like I get the vibe you target high worth, high spenders for your IULs. Our IUL requests that you're going to have access to, unless you guys create your own vendors, they're not going to be those kind of people. They're going to be essentially normal, average, final expense people, but wanting to get an edge on stuff, right? So a lot of your clients, 150 is the average a month. Oh, and right. So you guys might be probably more expecting, 3,000, 4,000, these bigger IUL deals. Those clients are out there. You're going to need to self-gen for them. You're not going to, I'm just being transparent. You're probably not finding those people in these vendors that you're going to have access to through here. Now, I feel like we're missing so many points. That is kind of the point, right? So this script is designed to just hit the key points to make sure the client understands what it's going to do. And that's it. Because the average client you're going to be selling these products to, guys, there's a reason. So Wyatt Berger is our annuity guy, and I'm going to make sure he gets on with you guys at some point this next week. He's like our local Rain Man. He's so intelligent. That's also his problem, is he explains it like he's explaining it to a Fortune 100 person who's trying to use his IUL for his like business funding to pay his employees. You start doing that to a 50-year-old Susie Q in Illinois, West Virginia, the guys are glazing over. They had a stroke and you lost them. And they need to think about it every single freaking time because they're scared. You scared them. So this script is just really, if you guys look at it, it's super simple. We offer tiers. Ultimately, the client is completely in control. IULs are more about what they want to spend, not necessarily price point, right? Or like a coverage amount, right? So how you talk about how you present them is going to be a little different, but we'll get into it. So really quick, there's going to be a couple different IUL carriers. So Americo, Transamerica,
NLG,
Mutual, Americo, Transamerica, Mutual, hold on, AmAm. These are all of your simplified IUL carriers. So I'll go through them one more time. Americo, Transamerica, Mutual of Omaha, American Amicable. And guys, so American Amicable, AmAm, and Occidental are the same company. AmAm handles certain states, Occidental handles other states. So a distinction between fully underwritten and simplified, okay, is simplified, guys, they do no exams. So there's no exam. The people don't have to come out, test them, pee in a cup, hair swab, all that stuff, right? They just run an RX report. They run a snapshot, a quick prescription check. And that's what allows them to give that immediate decision. So for agents, we like simplified IULs. They get approved quick, they get paid quick, they get issued quick, and they pay well. Depending on the client, you might be selling a lot of simplified IULs as a type of whole life. just so you guys are aware, because they're simplified, right? So you don't have as much wiggle room with the premium and the actual death benefit. So the death benefit kind of dictates how much premium they can put in, because they want to spend more, they have to get more insurance. So guys, the simplified IULs, without overcomplicating them, can sell them as a form of whole life. It's not whole life, but you can sell it as a type of permanent in coverage, or you can sell it as like a cash value vehicle too. Okay. Simplified policies, like I said, they're great, but these are for very healthy people. All right. And here's the difference. A simplified policy is just going to say, okay, and they're just going to take a snapshot of all the prescriptions or any issues that this client's had over the last 10 years. So here's the issue there. Ozempic, diabetic medication. Technically, nowadays people think it's a weight loss med. It's not. It's for diabetes, but everybody takes it for weight loss, right? Trazodone, I think that's an antipsychotic. People can get prescribed that for sleep issues. It's just for sleep. But when they take that prescription check, that's all they're seeing is the medication. So they're going to go, bipolar, schizophrenic, diabetes, no. And they'll make that decision immediately. They jump to the conclusions, right? So simplified policies should be used for healthy people. Simplified does not mean easier to qualify for. Fully underwritten products, they typically always are going to perform better for the client, cash value wise. Occasionally, you can get a 1 or 2 day approval. It can be very quick. Average full underwritten turnaround time is about a week, depending on what they might need back or something, right? Usually going to require some type of an exam or telephone interview. Fully underwritten takes longer, usually pays you more, better performing for the client, easier typically to get people approved. And here's why. Instead of, they're going to take that snapshot of their medical history, but now they're going to add a layer to it. And they're going to be like, okay, we see these medications, but doctor, why is he taking these medications? Is he still taking these medications, or has he stopped taking them? Because that screws people too. It doesn't matter if you're taking it or not, you've been prescribed it. So that's going to show up. And a simplified policy, they're going to treat it as if you are. They're going to make the assumption. So fully underwritten takes another level. And they ask, why are you taking it? And we determine, oh, it's not because he's crazy. He just can't sleep. Okay, great. We can approve him. Fully underwritten carriers, Transamerica has a fully underwritten product. Fun note, Transamerica was actually the first carrier to come out with an IUL. If you guys knew that, they were the OGs. F&G, Fidelity and Guaranteed, which you cannot request through CMS. You guys are going to get to need to get with your admin, and they will request that for you. It is slow. It's about like a 3-week turnaround time for F&G right now, but it's worth, guys got to get it. Especially you guys with the people that you're going to know, you need F&G. And then I'm only putting it in here because it is on the list, is National Life Group, NLG. I'm not a fan at all. So with your fully underwritten carriers, NLG is going to pay you 30% less than your FFL comp. I get it. We are here because we are altruistic people who want to help people. That's why you're in sales. You provide value. Find someone, provide value, help them. You get paid to do it. But let's also be real. We're here to get paid. We're not philanthropists. So 30% less than your FFL comp is a gut punch, right? And with IULs, it's important to understand this. You do not get paid on the annualized premium. So annualized premium, we're going to keep the math easy. $85 times 12 is what? AP annualized premium is what that client is paying over the course of a year. On IULs, so on whole life, term, accidental, that is how you get paid. What the client pays in a year, sometimes it's a 9-month advance, 9 or 12 months, depending on the carrier product. They advance that to you and they say, here, this is yours. And then the client pays the company back essentially over that 9-12 months. And now you're cleared and you start earning renewals on that policy. Okay. With NLG, 30% less than your FFL comp, you get paid on the target premium with IULs. So the target premium, or TP, is what you're actually getting paid on. And the TP is always, if it's done correctly, is going to be lower than the annual premium. Because what the TP is, okay, let's take $100. That's what we're spending into the policy. The easiest way to explain it is we have two buckets. This isn't the actual math, but let's say $50 goes into my cash value bucket, and then $50 goes into my insurance bucket. So one bucket is the cost of the insurance. The next bucket is my growth money.
Cash value.
So there's, depending on your age, there is a cost of the insurance. So the TP is essentially the cost of the insurance, because that's what you guys are getting paid off of. An IUL is a term policy. It is not a whole life policy. You can sell it as a permanent policy, but it is not whole life. It is term. And you'll know it because you'll plug in 50,000 for final expense and it'll be $80. You plug in 50,000 for an IUL and it's 20. That never made you curious? Why is that so much cheaper if it's whole life? If you've ever been told it was whole life, love you. That's not correct. It is term that we are intentionally overfunding. And then the company is taking that overfund amount and distributing it into indices to grow cash value for the client. So a term product does not build cash value.
Right.
IUL is a term product that you overfund intentionally. The company distributes your extra funds into indices. So the underwriting, what I was trying to get at, is going to be the pretty much same for IULs and terms. So if you have a client that had got declined for a term or an IUL, in your head, no, they're not going to qualify for the other one either. Okay, because they're very similar products. So just keep in mind, because if you structure these correctly, and we'll do some examples here, the majority of the client's money is going into the cash value because that's what they want, which means the actual amount of insurance spent is very low. So you may write $500 a month policy and you're thinking, yeah, I'm about to get paid $6,000. This is sick. But the TP is $1,800. So you get paid $1,600. I'm only saying this because my first IUL I sold, I thought I was going to make like $4,000 and I made like $900 and I blew a gasket. Now it's a scam. I just didn't understand. So we get paid off insurance sold, not the total amount of money being sent to the company.
Why are our IUL so popular then, since they pay that much less?
Well,
Consumer.
because the client is putting more in. So it's a smaller piece of a bigger pie.
Yeah.
That's how I would choose to look at it. But then depending on how you structure it, that can change. And we're gonna pull up an example here.
Like they're super flexible, Connor. That's really the number one
Like,
reason.
That's all they, like I know some groups, it's like all they focus on is IUL. So that's why I was wondering.
Yeah. So the reason my thought processes with it is final expense, life insurance, the way we traditionally think about it, is the product everyone needs, but nobody wants.
Right.
It's all negative connotation. IULs are not I need products. They're I want products. They take an intangible thought or product, they make it tangible by giving money back to the client. So persistency is typically higher because it's tangible. It's a real thing. They know it's doing something for them. Persistency for final expense, it's just a fact. After about the 2-3 year mark, about 40 to 50% of final expense policies fall off.
Because you got to die to collect.
It just, yeah, dude, it's a need, but it's a shitty need. Excuse my French, right? Yep. You have a limited period of time that you're going to get renewals. If that's like the route you're going, like it's limited, right? They're unhealthy and old. So IULs, the average person's going to be younger. They're going to be working. They're going to be healthier. And they know it's doing something. They're getting a return. So they want to spend more money and they want to keep it if things get tight because they know it's doing something for them. And I'm going to explain. There's a flexible premium so they can flex or change what they're paying in to accommodate a tighter budget or a tighter month, or in addition, a more lucrative month. Mm-hmm. So let me pull open F&G here because guys, I'm going to be biased. If you're going to be writing fully underwritten, if you have a client that is, I want cash value, it is your fiduciary responsibility to put them with Fidelity Guaranteed. If you have the contract, because it is going to perform the best, it does pay you the best. Well, Yeah, it does pay you the best because it pays you 10% less than your FFL comp.
Okay.
So maybe I'm pulling it in here.
Connor, too, one of
but-
the things we say a lot in trainings is that, because IULs can be complicated, right? But their uniqueness is that they have a lot of flexibility, like you said. But the number one thing to take away is that you can share in the gains, but not the losses. I mean, that's probably why they've become so popular.
Absolutely. And I'm going to touch on all that. And so I'm going to look at it. We're going to look at a fully underwritten one first, because I feel like that's probably the arena you guys are going to be operating with, the level of clients that you guys are going to be working with. So we're going to do this first. And then I'm going to show you an example of a simplified one, which is probably what your agents are using a lot of. So this is the F&G agent portal page. This is the home page when you pull it open. For intents and purposes right now, we're just going to look at sales tools, and you're going to go drop down to illustrations. This is on F&G. This is where you're going to go to create the illustration for the product. My screen's still sharing. I moved it. Is it still sharing?
Yeah, you're good.
So from here, F&G does have an annuity product. It is not a bad annuity product. If you're going to sell annuities, to my knowledge, Athene is going to be the best carrier that we have a contract with for annuities. Athene.
Great company.
Okay. And I believe they give you, the client, it's either a 10 or a 15, it's 7 to 15% bonus on your money when you put your money in. It's a great company. If you're going to run annuities, you might as well do it through Athene. And then another side note, guys, just in general, being a broker means you have options. You can put people anywhere, right? And it just, when you're running your quote, we're going to run through like some quoting tools too here. We still got a bunch to cover. You're going to get options. Just keep in mind, someone else could call them at some point in time, and money talks. So my process is I'm going to put them with the cheapest carrier possible. I will take a smaller piece of this pie to ensure customer loyalty. I'm going to make sure no one can come around behind me and put them in a different position, because I put them in the best position, even if it doesn't necessarily pay me the most right now. Long-term vision, I want to book a business, right? So I want my clients to stay with me. So look open on this. Actually, I have another, we're in February, 4 more months till I'm eligible for insurance again. I had cancer in 2020. So
Wow.
first thing you're going to do, okay, is you're going to go to agent of record. This is something everyone misses, and it won't let you do it if you do this. Agent of record. You'll need to enter yourself in, because you won't be in there yet. But when you do, you'll click on it, click select. Now it's showing agent on record. And that's important because it's going to put your name and all this stuff in your like illustration ID on this. So when you attach it to your illustration, it all lines up. Okay. So we're going to make this guy this practice. And let's do, right, last I checked, case description, guys. You don't have to put anything in there. That's like a personal note thing for you. Let's do California. While I'm on this topic, California, IUL states to get if we're running a lot of IULs. California is great. Florida is great. Texas is great. Connecticut is fantastic. Georgia is great. Louisiana is also very good. And then I would add in Maryland and Tennessee. But if you had to pick like a top 3, California, Texas, Florida. But we have a very large amount of business produced through the states of California, Texas, Florida, Connecticut, Georgia, Maryland, Louisiana, and Tennessee for IULs. But if I had to narrow it down to 3 or 4 to begin with, California, Florida, Texas, Connecticut. California and Connecticut are going to cost you a little. I think those are, depending on your resident state, I think those are going to be around $200 or $300. But California. So F&G only offers one product. This is pretty easy. Index Universal Life. Find available products. Okay. They have 2 options here. Both of them are going to be fully underwritten products. Okay. Path Setter is going to be their cash value leaning product. It is going to lean towards more of a cash value growth. Its indices are also unique in that it has access to BlackRock. I think it's the only carrier where it has an indices selection for BlackRock as well as like some really good Morgan Stanley ones. But that's what PathSetter is going to be. Everlast is going to be fully underwritten, still a IUL with cash value, but it's a little bit more emphasized on the death benefit. It's their version of Simplified while still being fully underwritten. And the easiest way I can say that is PathSetter, it's pretty much guaranteed an exam and a telephone interview, minimum telephone interview. Everlast, they don't do any. So it's fully underwritten, but there's no exam and there's no telephone interview. And you usually get results back within 2 days or a day. PathSetter will pay you 10% less than your comp. Everlast pays you 15% less. So if you're going to ask me when would I use one or the other, I really don't even know why Everlast is on there. It seems redundant, but PathSetter is going to be what you're typically using. Ashley, where do you go to apply for other states? That's going to be through your HCMS portal, but I can hop on there and do that too. I'm going to make a note that we touch on that. Okay. So illustration page, right? I'm going to show you a couple different things. So email, let's just do that. When it comes to the underwriting class, this is universal for essentially any carrier or product. You always want to quote them and submit them as standard. Okay. Never, even if you think they're really healthy, don't send them off as preferred plus, standard plus. Don't do that. The reason being is does any of us not know what like an underwriting class or ratings means? Is any of this foreign to anybody?
Yeah, explain.
Very okay. So based off of the client's health, history, lifestyle, how they answer some of the questions, they get table ratings, which basically, so let's look at it like this. Me and Adam, okay? Let's imagine we're the same age, but Adam smokes, Adam drinks, Adam doesn't work out, and he has a DUI, and he takes a decent amount of medications. Now, that person would not qualify for this, but you get what I'm saying. And then there's me. I run every day. I'm healthy. I drink water from the lake. They are going to rate him, which means based off of what we've discovered, he is a higher risk. He's going to die sooner. He's going to have health complications sooner. He's going to have issues. We may not be able to collect for as long with him. Hey, how long are you going to live and keep paying your premium? This guy's healthy. We can farm this dude for another 30 years. This guy probably only got 15. Let's make him expensive. So if they can't earn you on your lifetime, they'll earn you on a price vertical, right? So instead of being $100, we'll approve you, but it's going to be $200 because you're going to live half as long as he's going to live. So we're going to get our same amount of money either way. Does that make sense? So depending on lifestyle and what they do, it will cost them more per thousand to be covered. So you always put them as standard because if it comes back all green, like we hope it will, and they get approved for a better rating, they'll automatically do that for you. So if they send it in and they're like, oh, this dude's great. Why was he submitted standard? This guy's a preferred plus. He doesn't drink, smoke. He doesn't even, and what they'll do is they'll automatically enroll you into that preferred premium. So the premium will go lower from what you quoted them as, and they'll get more coverage for the premium as well. Depending on either the premium will go lower or the coverage will go up.
Most people that smoke, do they just say they don't smoke?
Yeah. If they smoke, just say they smoke.
No, I'm not saying the life insurance agent. I'm talking about.
Oh, like, is that an issue? Like, does that pop up with people lying about that? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. That's what I'm asking.
all the time.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So if they're a smoker, standard tobacco.
Yeah,
I think that's what you were asking.
People,
right?
There's a lot of people that smoke, but they go, yeah, I don't smoke.
No, because like that's something too. I preface every appointment or
Full
call.
underwriting, they're going to find out.
Yeah, it's like, dude, this is if you've told your doctor, they're going to know. There's no way you're hiding this. And then, okay, well, never. I'm not even gonna say it. They're always gonna. They're always gonna see it. They're always gonna see it, unless you're a military vet. Okay, and that's a little different, and that's a very gray area. The VA is a separate entity. So when they run their MIB reports, They are running that on community hospitals. So hypothetically, do not do this. I'm just saying this so you understand. Client has high blood pressure, dementia, cancer. He treats it all through the VA, private entity. But he stubbed his toe and got stitches this January at St. Mary's Hospital. And you put St. Mary's Hospital down and you say no to these conditions. The medical records at St. Mary's are going to collaborate on that. Like, yeah, we don't have record of any of that. He's good. If they die from one of these issues, guys, the policy's not going to pay it out. You can get sued for the face amount of the policy. It's called whitewashing an application. It is illegal. Don't do it. If they're through the VA, make sure you got to get their VA hospital. All right. And it is going to, like, you might have to get a wedding signature for them to release the medical records. Like, sometimes there's extra hoops, but just keep in mind, they're going to see it. All right. So tell the client that. And also that affects their odds of getting approved as well. So honesty comes into approval process. So if they're running a background check, they're running a prescription check, right? And they see everything I put on the app shows up on the report. Or maybe I listed something that's not even on the report. And they're like, oh, this guy was like being extra generous. You know, he said he was taking this medication. There's honesty and transparency. So now the carrier is going to say, okay, well, they didn't try to hide anything from us. We feel good. Like they take all this into consideration, where as if you choose, they're like, hey, like, I don't think we need to put this, or we don't need to put that. And ultimately the carrier is always going to have your back first, unless you become a habitual offender. Okay. The carrier will stand on your side of things. But what it looks like is that you were trying to hide something on an application. And if you're trying to hide one thing, you may be trying to hide other things. How you do one thing is how you do everything. So they could decline you because of that, even if they actually would have approved him if it was on the application. So just a little point there. Always just put the stuff down there. They're going to see it.
That's good to know. I was curious because other people lie about it, but it comes back looking like I was trying to not put it on the application. You know what I mean? So.
Hey, Connor, I don't know if you said this, but is there a 2-year incontestability clause for most of these carriers then?
No. Oh, contestability? Yes.
All of them.
Sorry. I thought you meant waiting period. I'm sorry. Yes. Always a 2-year contestability
Universal.
period. Yeah, that's everything. Okay. So and then conversely, if you were to submit them as preferred standard, and it comes back as substandard or not standard, or lower, well, that means one of two things. It means either increased premium or less coverage. They're not going to automatically do that to a client. So now you've created back-end work for yourself. You're going to have to get an amendment signed, send them a DocuSign, send it back, let them reconfigure it. You added a week and a half, 10 days to getting paid. Okay. Put them as standard, let it fix itself. Okay. Unless you think that they are kind of unhealthy, and then maybe you want to drop that down to a rated express, right? But let's just do standard. Well, standard non-tobacco. Do not run quick solve. Okay. That defeats the whole point of having a fully illustrated IUL at your disposal. So there's a couple different ways to do it. So I'm going to show you an average adult IUL, and then I want to show you guys how you can structure children IULs. Not being a smart ass, but I'm assuming most of you guys are the age where you have families and children, and you know other people who have families and children. These children IULs are no brainers. They're never
old, Connor. We know.
You're not old. You're just you're at a higher level. So for the average person, cash value, you're just going to look at max accum. Okay. That's what I'll go back to that for a second. I know it's fast. Max accum. Okay. Details. This is where we're determining coverages. So we're going to solve for the face amount. That's fine. You can leave that alone. Click on specified premiums. Okay. Now, before we get ahead of ourselves, I'm going to show you some other stuff over here, but you're just going to click here. And what are we paying? Let's say average IUL is probably going to be $150 to $300 a month. So let's just say 300 average. I've sold multiple $1,000, $2,000 a month policies as well. You got to hunt for them. They don't pop up in your lap. So, okay, boom. We've got this all there. We click OK. Pay premiums too. Guys, IULs can accumulate enough cash value where they start to pay for themselves. Okay. So you can turn on a point where the client no longer has to pay for the policy. Okay. So most people will do this. So you can either pay to a year, which would be Y blank, Y X year, Y 10 years, 20 years, or you do A for age 65. Okay. Most people are retiring at 65. This is always going to depend on how old the client is. If they're 60 and you do this, that doesn't make any sense. They're going to pay into it for 5 years at $100 a month. Like they get nothing. They have nothing. So just, that's something you need to be aware of, right? When you're doing these pay premiums too, if you have someone in their 50s or something or older, you probably leave that at pay to 100 because they're not accumulating in that period of time enough to pay for the policy unless they're willing to pay enough in. And I'm going to get into it. This box right here, minimum non-MEC death benefit. So Rich and Adriana are going to know what I mean. Matt might know as well. MEC is called a modified endowment contract. Okay. And it might be easier to show you than to explain it. But basically, you have a death benefit. Let's call it 500,000. You have cash value, 200,000. Over the years, this cash value starts to accumulate to that $500,000 mark. They start to look like they're matching, right? The death benefit, the cash value, if it exceeds the death benefit, the IRS is going to look at that and they're going to say, that is not a life insurance policy, brother. That is an investment. We want our piece of that. Great job. So now they're going to be subject to capital gain and income tax on that policy. It becomes a true investment in the sense, right? You need to not let that happen because that defeats the point of an IUL is having those tax benefits, right? But what will happen is your death benefit will set to increase as the cash value starts to catch up. So once the cash value gets to a certain parameter or limit of the death benefit, they start doing this so that the cash value does not exceed the death benefit. So you always want to click this box, minimum non-MEC death, because that's going to make sure that your cash value doesn't exceed your death benefit. Now, again, with fully underwritten IULs, guys, the death benefit's really not the concern most of the time, right? It's usually a much smaller piece of the issue. With F&G, you don't need to dictate or put anything in the initial face amount. It will predetermine that unless you are trying to solve for a death or a death benefit. You could solve for face amount, but that's not what it's not what you should be using an IUL for. At that point, you should be using term because it's going to be cheaper, right? Depending. I mean, if they want something permanent forever, then maybe an IUL is a better choice. But right here, death benefit options. Okay. And I'm going to explain this, but option A means level. Okay. So if you see A, it means level. What that means is that the client is going to start with a higher death benefit right away. They're going to start with the higher one, and I'm going to show you. So what that should tell you as the agent is, let's say I have $300. The majority or a majority of my $300 is going to go towards that cost of insurance because I'm starting with a higher death benefit. And what that also means is that there's a smaller amount of money going or available to go into the indices. Does that all make sense? So level, start with a big death benefit. So more of the premium is going towards the cost of insurance. You don't have to mess with anything in here. Okay. You can leave this alone. One thing on PathSetter, guys, the only thing so the carriers are going to pre-allocate the indices or the allotments based off of what's typically performing the best. Rich, can you verify that? Is that typically how that works? Okay. So I usually completely leave these alone unless I'm talking to a money man who has a preference on some type of indice he wants his money going into, which is going to be very rare. Rich, you're not going to run into too many people through integrity or a GOAT with that kind of intention, okay, or knowledge.
You guys are dropping into just as a default 100 on there.
100. What do you mean? No. So I do 0,
making sure,
and then I move my other. I move it to the point-to-point 110 participation. So for PathSetter, you want the BlackRock, right? 160% participation at 6%. That's good.
They used to have a great gold one, Connor. It was kick-ass.
There's products out there where you can back your IUL with gold. I'd be sick but the managers might not like me saying this, but guys, you're all 1099 contractors. Just so you know, if there's another carrier company out there that is a brokerage and they have a product you really, or a carrier you really want to sell, you guys can go and get contracted through them. Just so you guys are aware of that. Okay. So if you find that gold backed IUL or something and you're like, I need this, you can go and get that contract. I'm not saying FFL will carry it. And your managers may not like it, because if you're putting business through that carrier and it's with a different IMO, FFL doesn't, we don't get anything, but you can do that. And ultimately you got to look out for numero uno, which is you. Okay. So that's the one change I'd make on the indice allotments here. Otherwise, literally every other carrier, I'd never touch them unless the client specifies. I will just, since it's right here, lump sum. Okay. You can put a lump sum into an IUL. Rich, Adriana, I don't know your thoughts on this. I don't think it's the smartest thing to do. I think an annuity is if you have a lump sum, an annuity is a better option for them, because sometimes what that lump sum will do is it messes with the cash value. So it forces your death benefit to start to increase sooner, which increases your cost of insurance. And I'm going to explain this. I know I keep saying,
Remember we said about the 10 pounds of, in a 5-pound bag. If you're putting too much in, you're
Yeah.
artificially increasing. It doesn't make sense.
yes. And I'll show you guys. So let's go to calc results. So this is where we can see the illustration. Okay. And I wish I know I'm good to keep going, guys. You guys got to go. I get it. But I can't make sure you guys have clarity without taking the time we need to take. So I'm here to rock with you guys. If you guys got to go at 12, I get it, but we're going to be jumping. Here is your illustration sheet. Okay. Year of the policy, far left, age of the client. Next column is the annual premium, what the client pays for the year. Next column is going to show any loan or withdrawals. The next two columns are where people can get confused. And Rich, Adriana, please feel free to chime in. Account value is what I like to explain, and I don't know if this is the best analogy, is a line of credit. That's their credit line, right? So that is what the client can take out as soon as the first year, after the first year, 1 year, they can take that money out, all of it, some of it, half of it, and that's the gift, right? They can use that for whatever, emergencies, other investments, more aggressive stuff, whatever, right? The surrender value is think of that as the hard cash, right? That is the amount that's available to the client. If the client calls F&G and they say, you know what, dude, this has been fun, but I'm no longer paying for this. I want out. Just go ahead and cash me out and we'll see you. Okay. So surrender value, you're surrendering the policy to the carrier. Take my money and run. Account value is like your line of credit, right? It's what you can borrow against yourself. So when you take that money out, and Rich and Adriana, I'm gonna actually defer to you a bit. Is it 1 year before you start paying interest?
It's point to point. It's not a matter of interest. You mean on the loan? The loan will calculate, but only does aggregate in a 12-month period.
And I
Can
think
you
it depends
explain
on
that
carriers
in a
too.
Right.
It
And
does.
right.
Absolutely. Yep. So obviously the carrier is going to vary depending the interest rate it plays back. But the big thing is, guys, is they don't have to put this money back into the policy.
Correct.
Okay. It is
It's a
their
loan.
money. It's a loan. Yep. So now correct me if I'm wrong, guys. When you take that money out, if you don't physically go and put that money back in, what will happen is it will start to reaccrue that on its own. And what it does, and correct me if I've got this mechanics wrong, let's just say again, for hypothetical purposes, you're growing at 10%. It will take 4 or 5% of that. I don't think it's either 4 or 5. It's not a range. It's one or the other. And they'll deduct it from your top end growth, and they'll take it and they'll apply it to your loan to pay back on the bottom end, so that you naturally reaccrue the money that came out. So
I'll
you're
clarify
still
that a
growing.
little bit,
Explaining
'cause
that a
that's-
little muddy. Yeah.
Partially,
Go
yeah.
ahead.
Here's a couple things that's important. You're growing your money compounded. You're borrowing the money simple. There's another important factor that says that you're not actually borrowing the money from your cash value. You're borrowing it from the insurance company's general fund, which is why you're able to have what they call arbitrage, which is the whole goal, right? If you're borrowing it at 5 and you're earning 6 or 7, we can't illustrate it beyond that for regulatory reasons, but that is one of the keys. It's not just the tax advantage. Unlike whole life, not to get complicated, but you kind of got to pay them back because you don't really have the ability to have arbitrage. You may only be earning 4 or 5%. Your loan's at 6. You're upside down. That's right. So it may not be every year, but the two takeaways are is that your money is growing on a compounded basis, of course, depending on what that rate of return is, but you're borrowing on a simple basis. That's not a small thing. That's a big, big thing. But not taking it directly from your account from a ledger standpoint, coming from the insurance company's general fund is magic, because it's like taking 10 grand from your bank account and your 10 grand is still earning money. That's absolutely phenomenal.
That's what I was just going to say. So if you were to pull that full 2,500 out, your account is still growing compounded off that 2,500 as if it was still in there.
Whatever the index is earning. Yes.
Yep. So Rich, perfect. You got to Cartoon Network the shit out of that. All right. Because the average client you're talking to, you lost them. They're done.
No. Yeah. I almost had a hard time saying that out loud here, but it's, if your buddy could be working for you, even if you took it out, how cool would that be?
Okay. So this is a well-structured policy. Okay. We see that at 65, he no longer is paying for the premium, and now the policy is paying for itself. Now notice, we had 249 as the death benefit for a very long time. The cash value, and I don't know the specific amount or algorithm they use, but it gets within a certain range of that and it forces growth. See this? So the cash value and the death benefit will grow over time. Now,
if you build it that way.
If you build it that way. So it will do that level and increasing, but with level, it's less likely to do that because the death benefit is starting so much higher. So let me show you.
And I think
so this is at level.
That's where you were talking about it having that separation, so it doesn't become met
back
issue.
Yeah.
And
it'd be really hard though to neck it, you guys. You got to really overfund it. I mean, you have to realize how high that threshold is. It's high.
Yeah, and that's
depending
where
on how it gets set up.
Jennifer's asking a question about that in the chat.
Oh, did I not see that? Yeah, you can. But what you're going to do is you could potentially, again, Rich is very correct. It is pretty dang hard to MEC these policies. Okay. Now, depending on the amount of the lump sum that they're putting in, maybe that's fine. But if it's a big lump sum, you're going to force that death benefit increase sooner over the years than later. And here's where that becomes an issue is it's an increasing term. That's what an IUL is. It's an increasing term. So after 5 years or 10 years or whatever, the price to insure you goes up.
And you're renewable.
Yep. So the reason the client don't see that is like Rich's analogy. You're putting a gallon into this big jar bucket. At the bottom of this bucket, you got a little pencil hole. And so when your premium starts to increase, it just deducts the difference from this little pencil hole, pastes it on there. So you, the client, don't see this increase. Okay. The reason that that's something to take into consideration is that as we get older, that increase is going to get bigger because we're getting older. So the cost to insure us gets more expensive.
Yeah.
But basically, guys, if you put that lump sum in, depending on how much, that cost to insure you is already going up, but now you force it to jump even sooner. And so now it's pulling even more than it might need to sooner from the cash value to offset that cost of insurance. Structuring them, making sure the client is putting enough money into the policy is important because what they're putting in is like the hard cash, what everything gets compounded off of. And then obviously we have the market growth itself to consider. But if they're not putting enough hard cash, right, premium in, what can happen is if the market's maybe not performing right, that cost to insure them will start chewing up their cash value. So they're losing cash value on the cost of insurance faster than what they're gaining it as. And that's how you can tell a policy's been poorly structured. Okay. General rule of thumb, 5 to 10 times their age. 5 is like the minimum. And I feel more comfortable at 10. But if you stick to that, I feel very comfortable almost guaranteeing you that you'll never have a client run out of cash value if you have them structured at 5 to 10 times their age and what you're putting into it. I don't know the math of the algorithm, guys. I don't know, but that works, right? Every time. So
pretty good, Connor. But to keep everybody getting a nosebleed, just to keep it, because there'll be a whole, Ryan and I were talking about this. We're going to do a whole separate like boot camp on IULs because the positive is all these cool features. The negative is it's by far and away the most complicated insurance product in the industry, which is why people don't understand it. It's why a lot of agents misrepresent it. We're going to simplify that a lot because the important things are what matter. It's a more straightforward marketing product than you think, but you just have to be able
100%.
to make it simpler.
And that's, guys, this script that I sent you, guys, this is something you can read verbatim. Okay. It is so simple. It hits all your key points. And if you want to add something, do it. But this is Cartoon Network. Okay? But looking at this is understanding how you're getting paid. So you've got your AP, annualized premium, what the client pays through the year, $300 a month, $3,600. Now you have TP. That is what you, the client, are going to get paid off of. So if you ever want to know what you're getting paid off of, that's it right there. Target premium. Modal premium. This is what we have structured or illustrated the policy off of. Right? So if this number is different than what you put in there, something's off. Now, this is where that flexibility comes in, okay? This is the minimum premium, or MMP, you might see it called, okay? So 11, 67, 24. We get $97.27, always round up to the nearest dollar, cents, $98. And now there's a MEC. Now, Rich, correct me if I'm wrong. The 7-pay premium is their MEC amount, right? That's the most they can put in each month without them MECing, correct?
Yeah, it's called a 7-pay test. It just means how much of that, what can you put in that bag within 7 years? That's the formula used. That's not so much about the death benefit. It's within that 7-year look back. So yeah, that breaks down the maximum you could put in if you're you're dumping crazy amounts of money into it. But one of the ways to safeguard that, Connor, is we won't talk about this today, but if you want to dedicate the money, if somebody has a life event, they can dump it into a special kind of annuity vehicle that can distribute out 1/7 of that every year or every month for 7 years.
Guys, is that up 14,737 annually for
the year?
Yes, annual. It's always
each year over 7 years. Yep. So here's the range that this client would have. Anywhere between $98 and whatever for $1,200. So now, I'm not saying, I mean, you can explain this to them. I would. Hey, you can put all the way up to this or all the way down to this. So you have a lot of range. This is flexible for you. If you got some extra money, you want to dump it in there and protect it. Great. Make it work for you. If you have a tight month, that is the cost of the insurance, the $98. That is going to keep this thing alive, but you're not necessarily adding anything extra into the bucket. You're still getting interest, but we got a range. So they can pay up to $1,200 every month. And as long as they stick under, that would be like maxing their policy, their growth off of $300 model, right? So obviously the MEC and the minimum, guys, will change based off of the model. So if I'm doing $1,000 a month model, correspondingly, my MEC might be $7,000. So the more that the model it as, the higher their MEC is, the more they can add additionally into it.
And Connor, we get paid on it. It's important for you guys to know that if you encourage them to overfund is not actually the accurate term, but if they fund over that annual target, we do get paid. It's a smaller percentage, but you start getting earns on that extra money that they're flowing into the policy. So it's good for them and for us.
Yep. If they pay over the model, you mean, right?
Yeah.
Yep. What product you can get the largest commission check at a single time? Is that what you're asking?
Where do we see the biggest pops, right? Because that is what some people are really motivated to do.
So yeah, I'm going to answer that. And then I really want to show you guys this children IUL because it's sick and you guys are going to be able to crush these. But to answer your question, annuities, the average annuity is $300,000 to $750,000. You get 5.5% of that starting off, up to 10% once you hit $1 million in revenue, annuity sold. And they're non-chargebackable after 30 days. We don't have that anymore with annuities. So annuities are going to be the vehicle that if you're looking for massive, big, giant lump sum paydays with lower risk, lower downside risk, 100% is going to be annuities. We have annuity leads. They're like $250 a piece. Cross-sell, final expense, IULs, cross-sell, create opportunities for the annuities. Don't buy annuity leads. It's a scam. Okay. It's going to be annuities. IULs obviously are going to be like the meat and potato of the high ticket thing. I will say that most of your carriers are going to have a cap of 2,500. Some carriers, you can get that cap moved to like 5,000. Some, I think F&G, you can get it removed completely.
Advanced. He's talking about advances, guys.
Advance. Yeah, I'm sorry. So for clarity, the largest amount. So let's say that you wrote a $30,000 IUL, Rich, and your commission was going to be 20 grand or, whatever. Your advance, the most that they'll give you is going to be around 2,500 or to 5,000, right? They're going to cap that to protect you. Okay. Because if as a new agent, you sell that big policy and you just get paid 20 grand and they cancel in 3 months and now you have a $17,000 chargeback, you're screwed as a new agent. You don't have the skill set or the finances probably to get out of that hole.
And if
So
you
they
don't pay,
pay
you'll
you-
get a vector and you'll be barred from blacklisting.
Absolutely. All the carriers we work with, guys, they work with you guys. Like they want you to write business. They don't want to vector you. Okay. So you got to be kind of an asshole to get vectored, but they advance you to 2,500. The client pays 2,500. They pay your advance into the policy. Then they pay you another 2,500 and it would go like that, paid as earned basically until your full $20,000 of commission got paid. 2,500 is the cap on the advance that you can get. Some carriers you can call in and increase that, but you have to have a track record. You got to show clean, good business. So usually if you want to get your caps, your advanced caps bumped, it's about a 6-month wait. You got to wait till about 6 months because that's when your first persistency reports will start coming out and they can actually get a vibe of what kind of quality of business you're putting on the books. I'm going to show you this youth one. And then if you guys want to end, we can end. We can schedule another. We can keep going. I'm with it. But I want to show you guys this because this is sick. So kid's 4 years old. Okay. Do we like that age? Do we want to make him younger or do we like 4? Cool. 4.
Pretty.
We're just going to stick with 4. All
Yeah,
right.
4 is
and
way
we're going to
better. I
make,
wish
all right. So with a juvenile, there's less classes. Okay. So standard or rated, standard. Okay. This is the thing that you're going to change. And you can do this with adults too. It's just, this is very powerful when you show it on a child. You're going to show max acumen income. Okay. That's what you're going to click on here for this. Keep in mind, when you structure these, that doesn't automate anything. This is just, we're showing an example of what this policy can do. So if you do something like this and you sell it, this is not going to automatically like turn on faucets or anything for them when they hit these ages. They are going to have to call into the carrier to like verify this stuff and to like turn it on. Okay. So what do we think? How many of you guys currently right now are saving money for your children, putting stuff into retirement, savings, college? What amount is that right now?
Started the college fund when my kids were born at like $300 a month.
Nice.
300 a month. Okay, cool. Let's stick with 300. Okay. So we're going to keep premiums paid to 65, retirement age, right? Realistically, that's probably going to be 70, 75 by the time our kids. Cash value. This is a neat tool, but we're not going to use it right now. You can solve for cash value. So you can put in, hey, I want $100,000 of cash value at age 60. And it will auto-populate the premium, what they would need to put in to reach that cash value amount. So that's a really cool tool, not something we're using right now, okay? But you can solve for that, which is neat. Okay. Loan, we're taking a withdraw. Okay, we're going to move it from a loan to a withdraw. Okay. You guys want your kids going to college? Is that like something that you guys are going to push on them, or are you going to encourage them to get into sales or entrepreneurship?
Put it on college.
Screw it. Just
Okay.
go
No.
life insurance.
Are you guys college pushers, or are you guys going to put your kids into like a skill or a job right away?
My 19-year-old
I
son,
don't care.
My 19-year-old son's about to take his life insurance test. So there you go.
Sick. Okay.
Start them off for their
Okay.
own business. That's it.
Okay. That's it. All right. So we're not going to turn the income stream on for 4 years because we could have turned it on where the child received an income while they're in college, either to pay tuition, pay expenses so they don't have to work while they're in school and they can just study, or they could receive it as a lump sum to pay for the tuition. But we'll just do this one sum. And then we're going to turn on a second stream of income. And we're going to start that second stream of income at the age of 65 because we want additional retirement funds. And we're going to do this. We're 65. We're going to do it for, what's the average life expectancy, you guys? 85?
58 or something. Yeah.
So lower, you think? Okay. Let's just do 15 years then. Yeah, 15 years. Okay. Everything else, we're going to keep right here. Okay. Okay. Now, we're going to play with this a little bit. So again, starting with more death benefit. So more of the death benefit is taking up our premium than the cash value. If I do B is increasing, okay, it doesn't necessarily mean that long-term they're guaranteed to have more cash value, but it does operate like kind of a head start. The way it works is instead of giving them that kind of middle or appropriate amount of coverage for that dollar amount, they're going to give you the smallest amount of coverage possible so that the majority of all of your funds are freed up to go into the indices sooner, into your building faster. Am I explaining that correct, Rich? Is that essentially you
Good
start
enough.
with the smaller death benefit, so the majority of your premium goes into cash value indices sooner.
Cost of insurance is way less, obviously.
So less insurance, lower cost of insurance, more cash value money available. Okay. So if we calculate the results on this, and the guys, when I saw this, I was like, every single mom I know, which unfortunately is a lot, they're all getting this, right?
A lot of people write their children if they're uninsurable, and their goal is to use this instrument to save and accumulate tax advantage money. And that happens a lot.
100%.
We'll use the child as a surrogate, if you will.
Yep, they use them as a bank account almost. Okay. Same scenario, money spent, except we had 249,000 and now we have 159. So about $100,000 difference roughly, right? Okay. At age 18, 19, he can pull out $71,000 off of $300 a month into your child's future. Imagine, I don't think there's anything, and this is like the pitch I say this. Mary, there's no such thing as unsuccessful children. Every child has the ability to be successful. Unfortunately, some children don't have the opportunity to be put in front of the right doors. This is going to allow your child to be put in front of the right doors. Imagine if they had the opportunity to take out a loan for $71,000 to start a business.
Down payment
To
for a
do
house.
this, to invest in this, a down payment on a house. There is no such thing as unsuccessful children, just children that don't have the right opportunity to be put in the right position. This is a great analogy. Like another analogy you could use would be like the credit card one, where we take out a credit card and I add my kid as a user on my card, and you essentially start building a credit score for them. By the time they're 18, they've got a 780 or some shit. Imagine the options you'd have as a young adult with a high credit score and $70,000 if you had half a brain and knew where to put it. Come on, if you even halfway care about your kid,
We
right?
didn't get into living benefits.
Right. So living benefits, we can cover that later. But so guys, so it pulls a withdraw, right? So you notice that it drops the cash value. We're taking hard money out. We're not loaning it out. We're withdrawing it. So there is a difference, right? Because it takes from the account value too. So it's a hard withdrawal. We also notice that it lowers the death benefit, right? Because when you use your cash value, they are not separate. It's important to understand that. When you die, the death benefit pays out to the family. What's available in the cash value does not also go to the family. Okay. They are essentially one and the same thing. They just get separated for visual. Okay. Because if you look, as the cash value goes up, guys, what's it doing to the death benefit? So you could argue that the cash value is the death benefit. They're not separated in that sense, right? It's not one and the other. They're kind of all the same.
That 71 grand, is that tax free?
Yeah.
So Connor, that's the question.
Tax
I-
advantage.
Yes, tax advantage.
You
Yeah,
took it as a withdrawal, not a loan, correct?
correct.
Okay.
You always take it as a loan. You're not taking it as a withdrawal. You're still maintaining the policy.
Okay. So this is a loan.
Oh, yeah. So I had this set up as a withdraw, which that was my bad. But yes, as a loan, it's a little bit
All
different.
right, you can't.
Okay,
If you take it as a withdrawal, then there could be tax implications.
Okay,
Yes,
okay,
that's one of the reasons.
Because it's now you're taking it as income. Yeah, that's my bad. So he pays it out. He takes it. He starts the investment. He starts his business. He's doing whatever he's doing. Things start to grow again, right? We're reaccumulating. Now we're in early 30s. We're getting married, a house, children. Things are doing okay. Fast forward all the way to 65. He's got over $1 million to death. For the next 15 years, he's going to be able to take out an income of 131, called $132,000 to live on. $300 a month. And at 18, 20, parent can be like, you know what, Timmy, I don't want to pay this $300. And again, $300. This is a lot of money. I'm not going to sit here and tell you guys 300 doesn't mean shit to me. $300 is still a decent amount of money. Okay. But for $300 for this,
Wow, that's.
I don't know. Does this like not make incredible sense? Like, damn, I guess it's pretty much guaranteed to the most you can guarantee anything.
And that's 131 grand a year.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
So people with multiple kids, they're doing a lump sum on themselves, and then they're setting up multiple kids. That's a good business deal for them
Right.
and
So-
for us.
Right. So like for all you guys, I mean, all you guys are going to know people with children. We all know people with kids. You guys show them something like this. They have no problem putting $150 into a checking account or a shoebox for their
Yeah.
college fund. But this is well, it's like, okay, well, if you understood how inflation works, you're losing money, even if it's just in the bank. Damn
No,
near,
that's
even if it's in a high yield. Like,
That's a good call. And bear in mind too, a lot of these times, the child is the insured, but you can be both the owner and the beneficiary. You maintain all that control so that if for some reason they don't go to college or they become a psycho or whatever the case is, you're now maintaining the control as the owner of that policy. The owner has control and the beneficiary. The child is simply the insured, the surrogate, which is why the costs are so low.
What is the max lump sum someone can put into an IUL?
Depends on the death benefit.
yeah, depends on the death benefit. Depends on what they can cap out at.
That's why the MEC law came about, Matt. So that people, really wealthy people in the 80s couldn't put like $10 million in it and have no tax implications.
Right. Yeah. So again, this is a great example though. So cost of insurance for children, much lower, right? So when we're looking at our TP, yeah, it's still 3,600 AP, but holy fuck, guys. I'm sorry. Saturday.
It's not Sunday.
554. Yeah. Then your commission, right? So temporary, whatever that might be, that's like $300. Right? But what an amazing vehicle. You've done the right thing. You added incredible value to a kid, to a family. They're going to freaking love you. They're going to send all their family and friends with kids to you. It's worth it.
And
Right,
it's
it's
leads
worth
to
it.
that. It's a good
Policies.
add-on too. Like if they're doing it, you might as well say, "Hey, you got kids?" And it's just an add-on.
Connor, do you do any term riders? Sometimes we'll actually do a term
Yeah.
rider that they can convert where they
Yeah.
can put a lot more cash into it when the kid gets older, whatever the case is. And that stuff, you'll be amazed that this will stumble into the client that has a $500,000 rollover from an IRA or whether a 401k or you'd be shocked. And you start writing $5, $10, $20,000 year policies. That shit pays out big time over a long time if you do it right.
Hey,
Yep.
Connor, can I ask you one more thing in the kid realm? Just because this hits home with us. So our son just turned 19 yesterday, but he's special needs. He has epilepsy. He has a shorter mortality life, right? But we are tied in with massive amounts of groups of these people that we know. And it just made my spidey sense kind of go like, what happens when you're dealing in those types of situations? Because I'm like, wow, if there's a product for that, maybe we could be the ones who could provide that for a bunch of people.
Tricky.
Now, maybe that's really difficult to even do.
Mental handicaps. Yeah. So IUL and term, remember, they're like the same product. So the underwriting's going to be very, very similar. For your son, I'd be looking at probably participating whole life.
Okay.
Is probably going to be his best option as far
Well,
as
probably
having
the only
independent
option,
coverage.
really.
Yeah.
And you can do whole life for people and their kids if they got to.
So again, I know we're bouncing all over, guys, but
Yeah.
the whole life gets kind of broken up into two categories, right? There's final expense, and then there's I call it traditional whole life, or participating whole life. So final expense, the key differences here. One, it's literally a type of policy that is just designed to take care of final expenses. So when we're looking at that, we're thinking smaller policies, typically easier to qualify for. There's usually an age requirement, 40 to 45 to about 80 to 85 is that range typically. And they're going to start typically 5,000 is going to be the minimum. And they're,
50.
up to about 50. Now there's two carriers that you guys are going to have access to that has a final expense by making a final expense product that goes up to 100,000. And that is going to be Transamerica and Ethos. Both of those carriers have a final expense product that will go to 100,000. Typically, it's going to cap at 50. Some carriers are 40. Traditional or participating whole life, there's not going to be that age requirement. Typically, it may be 18. Some carriers 18. Some it can be 0. Okay. And these are policies of whole life that will go up to $1 million or $2 million or up. Okay. Going to be more expensive. Going to be a little harder to qualify for. Cash value wise, and Rich, you can add in on this. the final expense, it's very minimal. I would really say, hey, this is like a glorified savings account. This is a nice little emergency fund. I barely acknowledge it on a participating whole life, but my understanding is that the cash accumulation comes through participating in company stock growth. So not necessarily open indices, but with company growth, because it's participating and then they get disbursements back from that growth from the company. So am I correct on that, Rich?
Yeah, I never done a lot of final expense. It just was never
Okay.
my thing, but it's
So with a participating whole life, guys, you can tell them 4-5% maybe. So they will accumulate some decent-ish cash value. And that's also something, while we're on the topic, guys, not everyone's going to qualify for them. So what do you do if they can't? Pivot to a traditional whole life policy. So make sure you have Ethos or Transamerica. Guys, I would do Trans every freaking time because you own it. It's a better product. It's cheaper. I don't know. And they're the OGs. If you can't qualify someone for an IUL, letting them know, but I asked them a couple quick questions. Hey, these are really hard. One of the caveats here of an IUL is because it's such a powerful and lucrative product, they're really hard to qualify for. I sit with about 50 to 60 families a week, and it's a good week if I can approve 20 of them. So what I'm saying is that if they answer yes to some of these preliminary field underwriting questions, I'm going to let them know this may be a little bit harder. However, just to let you know, we have a backup product that's going to operate very similar called a simplified cash value policy. That is how you're going to explain it. And you can tell them this is going to perform essentially the same way your IUL would, except instead of getting that, 8 to 9, 10% accumulation growth, we're going to be looking at more 4 or 5. Still going to be permanent coverage, still paying out no matter how you die, still guaranteeing your price lock. It's just you're not going to get quite that same accumulation. So that is your pivot point. That is the product you will pivot to if you cannot approve someone through an IUL first, and then you may have to pivot to a final expense product.
All right, that doesn't impact things from an approval standpoint, right? Because it's still within that approval allotment period, right? If you've submitted them for IULs versus whole life.
So once you are looking at, when it comes to placement or pivoting, as soon as they've done the background check. So if it's fully underwritten, you're not going to know if they're approved right away anyway, right? They're going to send it to underwriting. For simplified issue, the way you're able to get an instant decision is they screenshot that background check. When they do that, they have to pay for it. It's not free. So as soon as they've had to pay to run a background check, that policy will count towards your placement. Okay, because now they've had to pay for a background check. So whether you submit it or not, you continue with it or not, it's going to count towards placement. Not a big deal.
So, but that's on the IUL side, or
that's on if it's a simplified product. So immediate decision. So simplified IUL, term, whole life. If it's simplified, they're going to run that background check while you're in the app to give you that instant decision. If they run the background check, AKA if it's a simplified policy, that's when it's going to count towards placement. Fully underwritten, it's longer than that because they're going to send it up and they're going to fully dig into it and request reports and labs and all this other stuff.
But on the simplified, if they're pulling just aggregated data from MIB, Medical Information Bureau, and all that good stuff, in the traditional world, if you've not gone to the doctor in years, 5-10 years, you don't have anything negative. But that doesn't give a lot of warm and fuzzies to the insurance company because they think you could have anything. It doesn't work in the simplified world because if something doesn't show up, it doesn't show up. Is that a negative or a positive? How's that work?
It could be both. On Americo, for example, there's a section in there that it says, have they been seen in the last 15 years? If you click no, they can choose to decline you for that. So I guess what simplified does not mean easier. Okay. It just means faster. Doesn't mean easier. It just means faster. Okay. But then coming back to this illustration.
For me personally, this has been great. I do have to transition. I don't know if this is a good transition for everybody to call it a day or stay on. Feel free. This has been awesome. I just want to thank you, Give you a standing O.
Oh no, guys. I know we probably didn't get to cover everything. And then let's just keep doing these with you guys, right? So let's do this until you guys feel like you're rocking, and we'll take 2 hours of time. And guys, I'm available for one-on-ones as well. So now that you guys are in the group me, please reach out. We can do one-on-one time. If there's a question you guys didn't get to ask, I am pretty much on call, except for Sundays. It's one day I'm going to ask you guys to leave me the hell alone. But every day else, guys, I'm pretty open for you guys. I encourage you guys to get into the Google Drive links and start watching the carrier videos. You guys know how to sell. You don't need to hear me teach you about all ABC, okay? But the carrier and the product training videos are going to be really helpful for you guys. And the referral training ones. And again, you guys are all in sales, so referrals is probably something you guys are great at, but it could help shake off some rust and how to apply it to our industry. And then I will say the mindset and leadership of the recruiting stuff, like, maybe not applicable to you guys right now, but there's some good stuff in there. But mainly product and carrier knowledge is going to be what I would really be focusing on right now in that Google Drive in the group me. When would you guys like to meet again? And what do we want to go over so we are being efficient and we are not going over duplicated stuff?
I think what we'll probably do is we'll need to circle our horses together probably on that. And after, since we had this, maybe everybody can sound in on it and figure out, okay, here's what we'd really like to touch through, and then get back to you with all that.
I would say at least weekly, at least once.
I'm with it.
And I will say this, because after 30 years of doing this stuff, don't get a nosebleed about this. I know it can be a lot. It's granular and you're like, you want to kill yourself. They've made this a lot simpler than just about any other platform I've ever seen. And take it a bite at a time. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed with it. He's very knowledgeable, which we're so gracious for that, Connor. Thank you so much. But it's really, you're dealing with one carrier at a time, one vertical at a time, and you'll learn it. Don't let yourself get overwhelmed. There's just a lot of really cool things that we can do in this space, but you don't have to know it all, be able to do it all right out of the gate for sure.
And then my last thing I'll add, and then guys, yeah, just let me know when we can keep it on Saturdays if that works for everybody. I would like to have a designated day if that's possible. So just something that's repetitively that we can do. I will say, to add to what Rich was saying here, guys. So what I'm going to say to this is, when it comes to training and studying, intelligent people want to know why, and they want to know how, and they want to know the inner workings of things, because it makes us, and I say us very gently, us feel like we now have the confidence to do something efficiently, because intelligent people take pride in how things get done. We want to be efficient. We want to do it right. We don't want to make mistakes. You're going to slow yourself really far down if that's how you approach this. It's crazy. The reason that you see the broccoli heads in here, 18, 19, 20, and they're making 30, 40 grand a month, and you're like, you are barely speaking English. He's on the phone with a client and he goes, yeah, this pays out when you die type shit. And it's, what did you just say? And they're selling $40,000, $50,000 a premium a month. The reason these type of individuals, intelligent people, succeed long-term here, it's not a question. Not question askers, they get successful faster because they're dumb. They don't question things. Now, I'm not saying don't ask questions. That's a very unhealthy sign. If you're having people say, don't ask questions, that's unhealthy. Ask questions. But what I am saying, ask your question and then shut up and implement.
Their ignorance on fire is what we used to call it.
Yes.
Good point, Matt.
Right.
Good
So
expression.
the ignorance on fire. Absolutely. I love that. So I'm using that. Thank you. Their manager will say, go make this many calls, go do it 5 times. Don't get up from your seat. Read this script word for word. And they'll just be like, okay, bro. And they'll go sit down and they'll start ripping. And they don't try to reinvent the script. They don't try to figure out new systems. There's a time and place for that, guys. It will help you long-term. But in the beginning, try to be a dummy. Try to ask the initial question you need to ask. Trust it. You're talking your soul, if that's what you believe in. But you have blind faith in that, because on a conceptual, there's no scientific, really, proof you can prove that your deity is real. Maybe personally to you, you have proof. Scientifically, you can't. Apply a measure of that. Give me a grape seed of that, a mustard seed of that faith into this business, and approach it like that. And I promise you guys, this shit will, you guys, I don't need me to tell you. You guys
Good way
have
to say
plugged
it,
into
Colin.
systems. You know how systems work. Take a mustard seed of the blind faith you have and that you're able to have and maintain in your religion with all the struggle and doubt and shit that we deal with every day, and apply that, a mustard seed of that, into this system of trusting the script and the process and everything. It's
Well
it's
said,
going to
brother.
be a really cool ride. All right.
Well said.
Thank you,
So-
Connor. Thanks again, buddy. We appreciate
Yeah.
it. Everybody have a great weekend.
Thank you guys.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll
Connor.
just, guys, whoever's gonna let me know when you guys are gonna meet. If Saturdays work for everybody, I'm cool with that. Just let me know. And please feel free to reach out whenever, guys. This is not like a formal, shoot me a text, give me a call, shoot me in the group me, and we can hop on a call.
Appreciate it, Connor.
Thanks, Connor.
Thanks, buddy.
Amazing.
All right,
Take
guys.
care.
Pleasure, guys.
Thank you, buddy.